Hi, my dearest family. Here is your weekly forecast starting on the 21st of April until the 27th of April. So, the very first up is Armor entering the sign of Aries. I mean, that's the first major shift that is occurring. Armor entering the sign of Aries. Armor's astrological number is 1221. And this is actually a very important movement because it's going to be spending approximately 9 months in the sign of Aries. So Venus governs how the how part of attraction. Armor is going to represent the conditions we place on love, the boundaries of intimacy. Yes, armor represents pure affection as well. So in Aries, that love becomes urgent, direct, very focused on the now. So this is an impulsive affection type of combination, a sudden urge to express care, appreciations. This is about self-love as well. You have to recognize that your own needs and identity are the starting point for any type of relationship. It's also about breaking the ice. Armor in Aries provides the heroic impulse to reach out first and mend a fence that has been ignored. So this is brilliant also for mending relationships in our lives, but we're gonna have to be able to put our ego aside. So imagine with, like from a relationship point of view, like you have been hesitating to tell someone that you appreciate them or you have got issues with them. So this is like it's sending an honest text, if especially if it is in your third house. Like I've been thinking about you and I really value our connection. So no games, just directness. In professional arena, this could talk to us about a client or a colleague who is struggling. And instead of kind of like sending a formal email, you are just going to become the protector for them. And then you are going to actively help them to get their project back on track. Because you should be driven by genuine kindness rather than duty with armor in Aries. On a personal level, this is about stopping to wait for permission, to enjoy yourself. So I'm gonna book a solo trip. I'm gonna start a new hobby because it makes me feel alive. It's about realizing that being happy is actually the best contribution you can have towards others as well. So in Aries, armor is stripped of its usual conditional nature. It doesn't ask, what do I get back for loving someone? It simply says, I feel this, so I will act on it. However, because Aries can be a hit and run energy as well, the challenge could be with this position is that it's not just a quick flame, burst of affection, because do we have enough, like, do we have the staying power? What happens once the initial excitements fade? Now, we also have got Eros entering Aries. Sorry, Eros entering Leo. But a couple of other things that quickly I wanted to mention about armor as well, because it could be like the chase that might be very interested, we might be very interested in. Like, I want the thrill of the first encounter, the heat of the chase, the excitement of a new conquest. Whether it's a romantic or, a creative project doesn't matter. Often, this is also about an instant chemistry with someone, something that catches fire very quickly. But there is the hunter side to Aries as well, right? So I want to pursue someone rather than pursued actually with Aries. There is a lot of active part of our desire going on because we have got already a very heavy connection to the Aries part of our chart. And then now we have got armor entering that as well. Okay. So Bakus enters Gemini also. Bakus is 2063 if you would like to look it up. So Bakus is about uh, um, pleasure. It's intoxication. So this is a social pleasure. This is an intellectual stimulation. This is the highs of communication. Bacchus represents where we find ecstasy, indulgence, how we check out to enjoy life. So that intoxication in the sign of Gemini comes from words, variety, like the buzz. So it really feels like that Bakus is the representation of wine as well. So it's kind of like I'm going out with friends, having a glass of wine. It's a light, bubbly kind of champagne type of conversation. It's like a cocktail party. It's a witty banter. It's the euphoria found in a really good book or kind of like a fast-paced debate as well. So on one hand, this could represent verbal hedonism. Finding the pure pleasure in talking, joking, gossiping, wordplay. Conversations can feel very addictive. It's like you're spending 24 hours on your phone texting someone. It can represent information overload as well. Like I'm gonna go to this trivia night, I'm gonna read the news, I'm gonna scroll on social media just to numb out, just to be able to relax a little bit. It's a bit of a social butterfly. So, it might not be about just sitting down with one person. I might want to be sitting down with, many people. It's about juggling. Gemini is a juggler. So it's about juggling between many kind of like appointments and meetings with friends and so forth. So if it goes into one of the relationship houses in your chart, it's kind of like dating two people at the same time, but also dating your partner's mind. So a long night, spent sharing memes and watching a podcast or videos or just gossiping around. Even at work, this might be talking to us about brainstorming sessions, the back and forth exchange of ideas, and to come up with a professional, solution, for example, to a problem. Yes, if it's too personal, it might be about kind of like digital snacking, jumping from YouTube to TikTok to articles, and therefore it's kind of like a mental hangover. So with Armor being in the sign of Aries and Bacchus in Gemini, Aries is actually giving the heat, the desire to act, while Gemini provides the script, and that's the words to say. So it's a very loud type of combination altogether. I think it's very flirtatious, very opinionated as well. And it's more likely people are going to be speaking their desire out loud. So it's actually a fantastic day for a launch, a first date, a public presentation, anything that actually pleases the crowd in a way. Because these are all happening on the same day. Now, then a couple of days after, oh, I'm going only hours. Sorry about that. We are going hours. So on the 23rd, we've got Venus conjunct Uranus on 29-degree Taurus. And this is pretty much Uranus's last aspect in the sign of Taurus. Both of them are going to be entering the sign of Gemini this week as well. So, of course, this is a massive week. But I've just written an article about the 29 degree. You can read it on my website. But the 29 degree is a point of crisis and urgency, a completion. It's like a final lightning strike of Uranus in Taurus before it shifts into Gemini. This really marks an end of a long cycle that started in 2018 regarding how we value money, stability, and our physical body. So now Uranus is meeting the planet of love and values. So at the very last inch of Taurus. So this is a bit of a now or never energy regarding security, even your heart's desire. It really feels like it's a sudden breakup or a sudden breakout. It's a release of a relationship or a financial situation that has been stuck or kind of like stagnant. It might be a very erratic shift in the market or your personal bank account that forces a change in strategy, like how I want to make money. But also, it might be a realization that you are worth more than this kind of comfortable situation that you have been tolerating. So that's why it could be a scenario when you walk out of things. So imagine from a professional point of view, the client of yours became very safe kind of with you. And then they might think that they can, do whatever they want with you. And this is them prompting a sudden shift. And I'm going to terminate the contract. Or maybe a client of ours is terminating a contract with us, but instead of panicking, you actually feel a strange sense of relief. Because Taurus is a heavy sign, so it's a weight and it's gone. And that's what Uranus has been trying to do, free you up from any type of burdens really in the sign of Taurus. And of course, Uranus will be moving into the sign of Gemini. Now, listen, I made videos about that before, so I'm not going to be separately talking about Uranus in the sign of Gemini. But maybe with that Uranus and Venus, you make a radical change to your physical environment or your appearance, which is very un-Taurus-like. You might clear out your entire wardrobe or sell a piece of furniture, something that you have been holding onto for years, and then now you feel somehow 10 kilo lighter. Or even in relationship, the relationship might have become very uncomfortable in a way, boring routines, and then we want to shake it up a little bit. We want to have the breakthrough conversation that we have to get intimate again, or we have to do something for fun. Or simply I'm walking out of a relationship because I want to feel free. 29 degrees an exit degree. So you are about to finish a lesson on material security. Yes, it could be a bit of an earthquake as well, but the earthquake happens to shake, to shake loose anything you are clinging to out of fear. And of course, Taurus was about what do I own? And then the Gemini is going to be what do I know? Who can I talk to? So keep an eye on your finances and technology on this day. 29 Taurus can be a bit volatile. There could be a glitch happening. Don't try to fix it by going back to the old way. Uranus is pushing you forward. And really feels like with Armor, Eros, and Bakus as well, that is just a big change. We are moving forward. On the 25th, so we've got again another astrological break. Sun is in Taurus and squaring Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. And this is a bit of a high pressure. The sun represents our identity, our conscious will, while Pluto represents deep transformation, power dynamics, the underworld. So they are squaring off. So there is a clash between the Taurus part of our chart, which is desire to keep things exactly as they are, and the Aquarius, which wants radical collective evolution. So this is a bit like an immovable object, really, and that irresistible force, and that's a clash. So it's a tension to come to the surface, forcing us to deal with issues of control, ego, fear of loss, finances. It's like the control versus the change. And you might start feeling squeezed by, I don't know, external authorities or even that internal feeling to change a habit you have been clinging to. How interesting that Uranus is on 29 degree, which pretty much asking the same. It might be certain type of informations that you figure out, something that was hidden, it was under the soil, Taurus, and now it's forced into the light by the lightning of Aquarius. And it's gonna come as a cold shower, most likely. It's gonna be shocking. But it's also about the ego death, It's about how do you define success? Because the old way of defining success or security or money is actually preventing you from growth. This is happening on 5 degrees. So I highly recommend watching out what goes down on the 25th of April, because this is going to be a topic the entire year for you. The reason being is because Uranus will join 5 degree while Pluto is on 5. Neptune will come on to that. So this is a very important day. It might be, a disagreement, for example, about money or values, and therefore we are required to deep dive into power dynamics. Maybe you realize one person has been using stability as a way to control your freedom, and the truth comes out, and it's intense, but it's super necessary as well. Or, maybe a large group of people are kind of like challenging the system that you have created. Maybe it's an algorithm, maybe it's a platform, maybe it's a boss is updating their rules about something, and that somehow threatens your something that you have established, a certain type of a routine. And you have to decide, do I fight the system or I'm going to be transforming, let's say, my business model? But also, it's an invitation to confront your deep-seated fear. You know, it looks like that you have got this safety net that is actually like that has become a cage. So it's a psychological weight, and you decide what you do with it. You're gonna burn the bridge, you're gonna force yourself into a new version of yourself, or you're gonna try to hold on to something so it becomes more painful, potentially in August, September. I think this week is a bridge between two worlds. The beginning of the week is very high energy, very fast, new desires. And then all of a sudden, we have got this sudden type of desire to break from the past. But on the 26th, we've got Pallas Athene entering the sign of Aries, and Uranus enters the sign of Gemini. So obviously, they are going to be making a sextile. So the first aspect Uranus is making is a sextile to Pallas Athene. So, of course, like I said, I have spoken about Uranus in Gemini a lot. Here, I'm just going to give you a very a brief summary. But Uranus is the great awakener. The last time it happened was during the World War II, 1942 to 1949. So, of course, that was a radical shift, especially how we relay intelligence. We are moving from tangible assets to valuing information. It's an erratic acceleration in AI, decentralized learning, how we neighbor with one another. But more on that in other videos. Now, Pallas Athene enters Aries, and that's the warrior strategist. Pallas represents pattern-seeking mind, pattern recognition, tactical wisdom. So in Aries, she doesn't just think, actually, she strikes. She is like the Amazon princess energy, decisive, pioneering, unafraid to cut through red tape, unafraid to kind of solve a problem. But it does have got a huge winning mindset. Now, Pallas and Uranus are in sextile, so that new world that Uranus is creating is kind of like immediately given a battle plan. So this is a highly creative, inventive type of aspect. So it's like, instead of like talking in circles, you and a partner use logic to solve a long-standing issue, for example, or you both agree on a radical new way of managing life and schedule. Gemini can represent schedule or digital boundaries. Maybe you are ready to launch a new digital product on YouTube or a series that you want to be doing. Something in a completely upgraded way, of course. Because Parasatini often appears in vocational readings. And in the sign of Aries, why not? Because I've got a better plan. I want to achieve something. I'm going to shake up the market a little bit. But your brain can feel like it's been overclocked. So, therefore, you might be looking for a high-tech solution to a personal issue, a productivity problem, for example. And then I decide to stop overanalyzing and simply rewire your daily routine. Maybe I'm going to use a new app, a new tool, and all those type of stuff. On the very same day, asteroid Psyche enters Cancer as well. So that's also on the 26th. And while Uranus and Pallas are rewiring your brains and strategies, Psyche in Cancer turns the focus inward to that soul's vulnerability. You know, Psyche represents our psychological sensitivity, the labors we go through to find true love. So in Cancer, that soul seeks a home, a safe, private space to process all these radical changes happening in the outside world. So in Cancer, Psyche is deeply intuitive and highly absorbent. She no longer wants the fast and loud energy of the earlier weeks. She wants to retreat, she wants to feel safe, she wants to protect her inner world. By the way, Psyche's astrological number is 16, if you would like to look it up where it is. But it really feels like it's going to be about feeling a bit thin-skinned, finding immense power in honoring your feelings. It's about healing the inner child, healing connections with family members as well. It's a bit of a psychological mother archetype or the lost mother archetype, and I want to find her badly. So it's about finding again, that safety and security in my own skin. Yes, you can really pick up on the unspoken moods of others as well. But it's also about creating those emotional boundaries as well. Now, it's not necessarily easy because you've got a lot of energy in the sign of Aries. So things are happening, really fast around us. And Aries is very direct. And it's no wonder if we start kind of craving for a soft place to land. And maybe you just want to be spending a bit more time at home, cooking a comfort meal with a loved one, prioritizing emotional safety. Because Aries surely made our lives quite exciting nowadays, right? It's speeded things up. But also, maybe you just decide to stop focusing on work a little bit. And I'm just going to make sure, like the process of the work, and I'm going to make sure that my clients are like deeply cared for, that they feel like they are at home with my work. But you might find yourself cleaning a corner of your house or looking at old family photos, realizing that your psychological health is very important and I want to belong to someone. There's a bit of a contradiction on the 26th. Uranus Pallas is very fast, digital, strategic, it's out there. And Psyche is a bit quiet, emotional, private. It's kind of like in heart. So even though we are doing things out there, but at the same time, we are craving just to be at home around our loved ones. So therefore, the lesson of the day is about balance. Yes, we are stepping into this new era, but Psyche in Cancer reminds you to take your heart with you, into that new era. You can have the most advanced technology and strategy in the world, but it's not going to replace that true love that you might be craving for. And that's super important. Now, on the 27th, we have got Sun in Taurus, sextile the nodes. So actually a sextile to North Node in Pisces and the trine to South Node in Virgo. And that's a bit of a stabilizing energy right now. We had the lightning and the thunder, and then now this is about knowing which way to go. It's about clarity that is needed to integrate these radical shifts into our daily lives. The sun here acts as a mediator, helping us balance the practical necessity of the past with pretty much the spiritual calling of the future. So in Taurus, the sun wants to build something that lasts. So by having those aspects of the nodes, it helps us understand which old habits, Virgo, are worth keeping and which new dreams, Pisces, are actually sustainable. So it's about taking a wild idea from earlier in the week, Uranus Gemini, and finding a physical, earthy way to manifest it. It's a click moment where you realize why a certain door had to close because you are letting a new one open. Taurus is about simplicity. So resolving a complex emotional problem, but through a very basic kind of physical action, really. Remember, we still have got a lot of intensity in this chart, a lot of masculine signs. But maybe this is about sitting down and have a kind of like a Taurus conversation about the future. You move from all this excitement, the chase, to actually discuss how we can support each other in the long run and how we can become peaceful with each other. It is engaging in a spiritual, physical activity at the same time. So I'm doing this gardening, this restorative yoga, long walk on the beach with the dogs. So you may find that grounding your body, your intuition actually becomes even clearer. Um, oh, I forgot to spoke about Eros. Because Eros went into the sign of Leo on the 21st. Sorry, I forgot to talk about that. So imagine Eros in Leo as kind of like the grand performance. Eros in Leo is pretty dramatic. It's very creative. It has got a desire to be seen. So Eros finds its passion through self-expression, play, romance that feels like a cinematic event. It's a celebration of our relationship. It's a celebration of our desire. It's being very passionate about a performance. It's about show off your love and your creative projects. You really want to see the world. You want the world to see what makes you kind of pause with life. It's a huge creative fire. It's Eros is really kind of like feels like that muse. It's very good for artists, performance, anyone who wants to become creative about something or becoming passionate about a project. Eros in Leo needs a lot of admiration, a lot of adoration. So we might be attract or we want people to surround us who makes us feel like royalty. So just let's watch out for that. It's often about a grand gesture. You want to take someone to a place where they feel special, making feel others special, or you want to feel special. I don't know, you post a public tribute to a partner or a friend. It's about making them feel like the center of the universe. You don't just launch a product, you stage, kind of like an opening night, for example. That might be also about focusing on branding. You're focusing on visuals. It's all about bringing the confidence back, dealing with situations with warmth. It's also about glamour. So you might dress up just to go to the store, spend time on a hobby that is purely for fun. You are romanticizing your own life a little bit. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that armor, which also goes into Aries. Well, I mentioned at the beginning of the video that it's going to be spending 8 months there. Well, what's really going to happen is that armor going to go retrograde on 28 degree. The shadow period starts on 7 degree, by the way. The direct motion of armor is going to end on 6th of December, and then it's going to go into the sign of Taurus on 13th of March 2027. So you can see actually it's not even an 8 month period, it's an 11-month period, really. So, of course, we're going to have to review our heart. Um, it's a deep audit eventually, whether you lose your identity when you care for others or not. It feels like that it's a It's some type of old relationship issues might be resurfacing at one point. It's about, it's going to be retrograde. So it's going to look at relationships whether it's sustainable or the spark that I'm feeling, is it sustainable or it's just temporary? So watch out for those degrees there. And then one other thing that I wanted to mention, that Zeus enters Taurus this week. And I think that might be actually also pretty important to talk about because I don't think we have ever spoken about Zeus on my astrological channel before. But let's just talk about that Zeus as well. So Zeus is going to be entering the sign of Taurus on the 23rd of April. Asteroid Zeus is 5731 if you would like to look that up. Um, and Zeus, um, I mean, it's a king. It is the god of all gods, basically. So the god of all gods is all about, in the sign of Taurus, that I want to be a god of finances. I want to be considered as the king of the financial industry. It's very much about maintaining authority, power, but in a very tangible, material ways. So you can think of this transit as a high-level willpower and finding the practical resources to kind of keep my kingdom intact. Zeus represents authority, leadership, the will to power, and Taurus represents stability, physical assets, the methodical building of security. So, Zeus was a strategist. He had that authoritative voice as well. So anything that is abstract or too intellectual, it's not happening in the sign of Taurus. This is going to be more goal orientated. This is not necessarily about planning, though. It's more about solidifying, our standing in the material world. So this might be a period of time when you take control over your finances, the property, the physical health, wherever Taurus is in your natal chart. It's often about making a very firm decision about your investments, restructuring your daily resources. The energy pretty much supports a bit of decisive action on what happens to you right now. It's also about you becoming the CEO of your life. It's about, willpower in a way. And how interesting that we still have got the Saturn Mars conjunction going on, which is also about willpower and endurance. So this is about making a decision, but it might be very difficult to reverse it if we want to. But also maybe we have to be careful because we do have got the Sun and Pluto square, which might represent that we are a bit too rigid or dogmatic about how a situation must look or function. I think it's about exercising influence as well, financially trying to exercise influence on others. But you can also gain authority by becoming the most reliable person in the room. So let's also think of that. And one other thing that I wanted to mention as a very last bit. Um, oh, one of the, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, one other thing I forgot to mention that. I'm just looking at the chart now and then I'm seeing that Venus in Gemini is actually sextile Neptune in Aries. Now, Venus, of course, moved into the sign of Gemini, which I mentioned earlier. Now, this is going to be happening on the 26th. And Venus in Gemini is the networker, This is the love of variety, love of intellectual stimulation, the exchange of ideas. We are versatile. We see his relationship as a dynamic process of becoming kind of like through conversation. And Neptune dissolves the boundaries of ego in the sign of Aries. It is trying to give us a new vision. It acts on intuition rather than logic. It often brings that spiritual warrior of like energy or the idealistic quality to our self-initiation and personal identity. It's a sextile, so that's a bit of a bridge. That's a bit of an opportunity. So therefore, if you want to do some, it's a very good for sales pitch or artistic presentations or any scenario where you need to sell a vision, basically, because it's about articulating your abstract concepts like dreams, ideas, the intangibles, but using very clear, adaptable language of the Gemini. Also, maybe your social radar is very much operating on a high frequency like right now. So you intuitively get what others are trying to say before even they try to articulate it. It's brilliant for mediation, creative collaboration, social gatherings. It's also the beauty of something new. These are early degrees. So I am excited about this new conversation, this new opportunity. You can even seduce yourself and others into new habits, new directions. It's a bit of a gentle persuasion. It's about inspiration rather than, oh, you have to do it. Um, it's a very rare window, where your intuition and your social expressions align perfectly. So you can really even communicate your spiritual views with others as well, and they understand the why behind the what you do type of stuff also. So it's very good to promote your spiritual services. Maybe you are a bit hesitant to share the big picture idea, that Neptune and Venus might be nudging you a little bit to do it right now because your environment becomes more receptive towards your visionary concepts. And also, it's about forgiveness as well, especially if you're in a disagreement. Let's just rely on empathy rather than the facts all the time. Neptune is kind of like a bit of a buffer there. It's smoothing out the sharp edges of that quick wit and so on. And one other thing that I wanted to mention is that on the 26th, Mercury is also in square to Jupiter. So Mercury is in Sagittarius. So therefore, it is ruled by Jupiter. So therefore, it's an important aspect. Now, with Mercury and Jupiter square, obviously Mercury is not in the greatest position ever. But I would call this archetype as a tension between the objective truth and the subjective truth. Right? So, of course, Jupiter in Cancer is very protective. It's highly sensitive. So it's being sensitive towards the truth. Mercury in Sagittarius is the seeker of truth. It wants to understand the big picture, but often at the expense of nuance or tact. It's prone to foot in mouth type of moments. It values honesty over emotional comfort. Now, Jupiter in Cancer is the protector. It's internal, it's domestic, it's emotional safety, it's the tribe, the family tribe. So the problem arises when you need to speak the unfiltered truth, let's say to a member of your family, and it directly threatens your emotional stability or your perceived safety of others. It's a bit of a preacher versus the protector problem. You want to share your idea, you want to share your critique, you want to share your big truth, but whoever you want to talk to, they find it defensive. So we have to learn how we deliver the message. Sometimes the way we deliver the message is more important than the message itself. Or maybe this is about over explaining or over listening. I mean, Mercury in Sagittarius has got a tendency to lecture someone, but Jupiter in Cancer also wants to be heard and felt. So if we are trying to solve an emotional problem with intellectual logic, you will hit a wall. So you must shift from explaining the solution to kind of validating the experience, really. And both are very like expansive energies. So there is a risk of over-promising, making very optimistic declarations, about the country, about domestic matters, about emotional matters as well. But this aspect might be saying that we are unable to fulfill once the energy settles. So, Mercury in Sagittarius loves the grand, unfiltered statement. So let's just be very careful about that. So, guys, I think I have mentioned everything that I wanted to. Yes, I have mentioned everything that you need to know. So, good luck the week ahead, and thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and all those lovely things. And I will see you in the 12 sign breakdown. Good luck. Bye bye.